trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. Well, do you know that's a lot of people were programmed because that's the kind of environment they were raised in. And that's how their paradigm was formed. Paradigm is nothing but a multitude of ideas. And it's as strange as it sounds, we still like the same food we were programmed to like. We speak the same language. We believe in the same concepts. All our belief systems, we inherited them. And if you don't change that paradigm, baby, you're going to stay where you are. Now look, school gave us valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us how to change the paradigm. Therefore, we frequently don't do what we already know how to do. Superior knowledge, inferior results, causes confusion and frustration. Let's go back to the model again. There's the books in the conscious mind. Now that's the model we learned as we were going through school. Do you know that model is still the way it works today? You come here, you gather information, you take the notes, and you say, I got it all figured out. If you don't change the results, you'll be coming back here next year earning just about the same as you're earning this year. Many of you are earning this year what you were earning last year. You think, what the heck's the matter? It's the paradigm. I don't care how much knowledge you've got. The knowledge doesn't turn into results. You see, if you've been in network marketing just for a short period of time, you already know what you have to do. You've got to sit down with another person and you've got to find out what they want, and you really have to want to help them. You've got to care. Yet you've heard it many times. They don't care how much you know until you know how much you care. That's very common. Everybody knows that, even if you've only been around a couple of weeks. But you see, it's the paradigm that controls the results. And if you want to change the results, you've got to change the paradigm. And if you don't change the paradigm, you'll stay the same. That is why people keep getting the same results year after year after year. Now look at this for a moment. Here's a model that I put together of the organized educational model, which most of us are still following in corporate training. Here's the person, and here's the model. You go to school and you hear what the teacher's saying. You hear with your ears. And because you hear it, you gather the information. I got the note, I got it down, damn it, I got it all figured out. Then the teacher comes along and they're going to give you a test. They want to know, did you learn it? Well, I'm going to tell you something. Memorizing it is not learning it. You can answer all the questions. You got all the knowledge, and you'll get the degree. You can have them right off the end of your business card. But that is not learning, baby. That is gathering information. Now get this. Gathering information isn't going to do you any good if you don't use it. Now you hear with your ears. Look at, you listen with your emotions. You've got to let yourself get emotionally involved in it. You know those 6- and 7-figure producers that were here earlier in the week? They're the ones you want to be talking to. Any one of them. Doesn't matter which one. They prove by results they know how to earn 6 or 7 figures. Ask them, say, what are you doing? Just tell me what you're doing. What time do you start work? What do you read? How many people do you see? What kind of a presentation you put? Do you know the average person's presentation is pathetic? I have been doing this since the 60s. I have spent at least 40 hours on this presentation. If you don't do it, you're not going to be any good. And you've got genius locked up within you. Now you listen with your emotions. And if you're listening, odds are pretty good you're going to learn. Now really let this sink in. Learning is when you consciously entertain an idea. You get emotionally involved in that idea, you step out and act on the idea, and you change the end result. It's the feedback from the change in result that's the learning experience. I did this and that's what happened. I learned something. That's not gathering information. Listen, I can play loud music, I can get you dancing, I can feel good about yourself. If you don't learn what the paradigm is, if you don't learn how to change the paradigm, you're toast. You're going to be the same next month as you are this month. See, when my income went from nothing to $1 million, I thought, what the hell's happening? How did this happen to me? I'm an ordinary guy that got some extraordinary information. And when I figured it out, you know something, all I wanted to do was teach it. That's all I do. That's all I want to do. I want you to learn what I've learned. Because I believe you are so much better than you believe. Now look here for a moment. Let these lines represent levels of awareness. Okay? A is aware of how to get the results B is getting, but B is not aware of how to get the results A is getting. Now think of this. A is aware, you could say the A's were the ones that are here earlier in the week. They took all week to come here. B is not aware of how to get the results A is getting. Why do so many of the B people get stuck and stay stuck? Why don't they go and ask the A people what they're doing? Well, they stay stuck because of paradigms, a lack of awareness. It's so wild and so misunderstood. You're going to make a decision. Now, watch this carefully, because I think this is important. I want you to look at the areas of your life that your paradigm has enormous influence over. This is really important. Now, everybody might focus on a different area, but every area is really important. Your perception is controlled by your paradigm. It is. When you're sitting down and talking to a person about the opportunity in your organization and they don't see it, they don't see it. You're going to help them shift their perception of what this is all about. Perception is your point of view. It's how you see things. Perception is something that's going on inside. Your paradigm controls your perception. Your paradigm controls your use of time. I remember one morning, I was speaking on a program with Earl Nightingale in downtown Chicago, and Earl come and said, "Do you want to meet for breakfast first?" And I thought, well, yeah, you know, kind of any time I had a chance to be with him alone, I was there. And so we're having breakfast together, and I asked him, I said, yeah, like, this guy, he fascinated me. He did. And I said, Earl, how did you learn to master time management? We're sitting having breakfast. I can still hear his fork hit the plate. And he looked at me and said, what are you talking about? He said, I've never mastered time management. Nobody masters time management. He said, time can't be managed. He said, I merely manage activity. He said, I just carry a card in my pocket and I write on it at night the things I have to do tomorrow, the goal achieving activities. And when I wake up, I do them. And I thought, really? That's it? I've had these cards printed. And on the back of them is the last chapter out of As Man Thinketh. I read it over and over and over again. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It's the result of long and patient effort in self-control. Its presence is an indication of ripened experience and of a more than ordinary knowledge of the laws and operations of thought. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of literature that you'll ever have. I read it every day because it's on the back of my to-do list. This was my to-do list to start here. You see? I carry them with me. Use of time. You don't manage time, you manage activities. Okay? Your creativity. There's nobody in this room that's more creative than another. We're God's highest form of creation. We're all the same. We've all got the same potential. It's what we do with it. Our paradigm controls our effectiveness. How effective are you? How effective are you in your business? It controls your productivity. And get this, it controls your logic. Have you any idea where we would be if the Wright brothers let logic control them? We wouldn't be moving around very fast. You know, all the people that have made breakthrough were illogical. Your paradigm controls your ability to earn money. Now look at this. Do you see that box around all those areas? They're like imaginary walls. They're imaginary walls that you just don't seem to be able to break through because the paradigm is controlling you. The second you make up your mind that you're going to change your paradigm, you don't have to change it. You just have to say, I am changing it. That's it. You knock the walls down. That doesn't mean you're going to move, but now you can move. You can step out of there. You can do it. God, it's such a wonderful thing to be aware of. And I'm going to tell you something. I want you to imagine how your entire life will change as you begin improving any or all of these areas. The change is going to be huge. From 4,000 to 175,000. My head was spinning for years. I was wondering, I wonder when it's going to end. I remember reading, James Cagney was a very favorite actor of mine. I remember reading about him. He never saw his own movie. And he never thought his career would last. He always thought it was going to fall apart. Get this. The change is not only going to be huge, it'll be permanent. I have never gone back. That doesn't mean I've never had problems. I've had lots of problems. But I control me regardless of the problem. I don't let the problem control me. Change. Imagine if that's the only thing you changed is your use of time. Do you know, you're going to hear marvelous information here. That's all you're going to get from everybody here. If this is the only thing you took away, that from this point on, you are going to manage your activities. That's it. No more fooling around. I was coaching a man one time. I thought he had more money than God. He used to fly me to his yacht in the Caribbean, or he'd fly me over to Gstaad or to Cap Antibes. Paid me tens of thousands of dollars, and I'd just sit and talk to him. He had a place in Eaton Square in London. If I told you it belonged to the prince, you'd have believed me. The man had a lot of money. His first name was Harash. He wouldn't work. He hired me to get him to go to work. And when he went to work, I was out of work with him. But I remember one time we were at Cap Antibes. He had the most beautiful place, and there was a picnic bench outside. You could look across the bay to Cannes. It was just an absolutely magnificent place. And we were out there having croissants that one of the servants had gone and got. And we're in the south of France. I mean, they were perfect. And some tea, and we were chatting in the morning. And when we were finished, I went to pick the things up to take them in the house. He said, no. You don't do that. And he rang a little bell. And servants come out to pick it up. He said, if you do that, they won't have anything to do. But you know, I couldn't stop thinking about that for the longest time. I realized you have to learn to be served. I was uncomfortable with it. You have to learn to be served. I've lived in the same house for over 30 years. I'll probably live there for another 30 years if I'm here. I'm comfortable there. We have a pool. And there was a guy there, he's gone now, he died a year or two ago, but Frank was there when we moved in. I used to be uncomfortable when we first moved there, sitting watching Frank clean the pool. I used to think I should help him. Joe, that cuts the lawn, looks after the flowers, he was there when we got there. I used to feel very uncomfortable when Joe was cutting the lawn. I felt like I should be helping him. I don't have any difficulty watching them anymore. We have 2 housekeepers. Linda put it across very well. Amanda became 65 and she didn't want to work full time, so we said, well, you just work part time. We'll pay you the same. And we'll get another person in. And she said, you know, the other person's really good. She looks after the house, but Amanda looks after us. I thought, yeah, it's true. You've got to learn to be served, though. You have to learn everything. Well, when you learn to use your time, you'll skyrocket your income. I spend all my time creating. I have a phenomenal staff. You must have a phenomenal staff. You really must. You can tell by the work that's being done. I have an assistant that's worked with me for 29 years. Gina, she's incredible. But we have a lot of long-term employees. They're just great people. Now think. I want you to think about you, and I want to think about what you're doing here. Now watch. There's so much more to you than appears on the surface. Do you know, if you stood in front of an infrared television camera in a completely dark room, your body would be nothing but a glistening, radiating, gleaming form. Do you know that there's about 11 million kilowatt hours per pound potential energy locked up in the electrons in the atoms of your body? You've got enough energy in this hand, potential to light up this hotel for probably a week. But we don't act like it. You already have within all that's required to be, do, or have whatever you want. You don't have to get it. You've got it. You've got to accept that idea. You see, your spiritual DNA is perfect. You are truly God's highest form of creation, yet requires no modification and no improvement. This is so important we understand this. Your spiritual DNA is all-knowing. It's all-powerful. Part of you that's ever-present. That's the real you. You should ask yourself, am I truly who I pretend to be? Where did the idea for this cell phone come from? Where did the idea for the internet come from? Where did the idea that permits us to stream all over the world to you who's sitting possibly at home, listening to this, where did that idea come from? I would imagine as you're sitting in your office or you're sitting at home watching this whole conference, you are so grateful for the internet and for this is streaming. Where did the information come from? It was always here. It was always here. Where does the power come from? You don't get power, you release it. No one gets energy. You'll hear somebody say, where did she get all the energy? Nobody gets any energy. All the energy there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. We release energy. I have more energy than most people half my age. Where do I get it? I don't get it. I release it. Desire is the triggering mechanism that releases the energy. If you don't have desire, you're going to drag yourself around. Now let me tell you what desire is. Desire is the want that's properly planted in your subjective mind, and it begins to grow. William James said, you plant it in the garden of your subconscious mind. Your results are telling you what you pretend to be or who you pretend to be. You're God's highest form of creation. All right, now let's look here. I would imagine that a high percentage of you are making up your mind while you're here in the Mirage at GoPro, your goal. And I would imagine that you've decided that you're going to get something different. Now, if you haven't got this properly in your psyche, you could set your goal to do something you already know how to do. That would be a terrible waste of your life. Goals are not to get. Getting is a side benefit. Goals are to grow. Goals are those things that we get emotionally involved with that cause us to stretch, that cause us to break out of those old habit patterns. If you could get into Rory's mind, either Maureen or Eric's, when they come up with the idea of filling this ballroom last year, I don't need to ask them. I know it scared them. Because whenever you go to do something you've never done before, it's scary. When we get away from doing what we know how to do you know where we generally go? We go to what we think we can do. Doing what you think you can do doesn't cut it. That's where you say, well, if she reaches this next pin level, yet if he will get so many on auto ship, if Harry does this and Betty does that, then we could get there. This is all being figured out intellectually. Yes, the intellect, and this is where we could go. Do you know something? Going after what you think you can do is no good. First of all, what you think you can do is not going to inspire you. You're not going to get any help from the people you're leaving, and you're going to be leaving the people that you're with. They're not going to help you. It's not that they don't want you to win, it's that they don't want you to leave. Listen, if there's 4 or 5 of us hanging out together all the time, they don't want you to leave. Do you know why? You are forcing them to change. People don't resist change, people resist being changed. Yet if you leave this little circle, you're forcing them by your absence. They got to adapt to your absence. They don't want to do that. They're not going to help you. They're going to criticize you. They're going to tell you you're crazy. No, we got to stretch. We got to really stretch. You got to stretch your mind. You got to get up where the air's thin. Get up into that high octane energy. That's the C-type goal. That's where you're creating. That's what you really want to do. That's what you really want. You don't know how, but you know you will. That's what this organization's all about. That's where they're wanting to take you. There has been an enormous amount of energy gone into putting this together. There has been tens of thousands of dollars spent on putting this together. And you know what they want you to do? They want you to decide to do what you want to do. Do you know where wants come from? Wants come from the essence of who we are. They come from our spiritual essence. And Spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression, and it's jabbing us in the consciousness. Want this, want this. It's not to get, it's to grow. My company builds schools in Africa. I have a business partner, Sandy Gallagher, and we made a decision, and we got the whole company involved. We build a new school every 2.5 weeks in Africa. Now, wait a minute. Our goal is to build one every day. This inspires us. We have no idea how we're going to do it, but we know we're going to do it. You've got to have a goal that causes you to stretch. Write your goal on a card. I started to do that 55 years ago. Carry it in your pocket. Now listen, I'm going to go down something fast. If you're not well-centered, if you don't have the right mindset, and you set a goal to do what you want, understand this. Things don't change outside as fast as you want them to change. Do you know, there's a little book, You Square. Everybody should get it. He said, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. He's talking about dealing with unseen forces. What you're doing is working with a non-physical world. That's the real you. You're a spiritual being. Now look at, you're either dealing with ignorance or knowledge. There's a power flowing into your consciousness. Now, as I said, I have given Eric and Marina these slides, so somehow or another they can figure out how you get them. You probably are not going to be able to copy this down as fast as I'm going to go through it. But I want you to think, there's a power flowing into your consciousness. If you're being controlled through your senses and you don't see things happening the way you want them to happen, you'll probably start doubting or worry. So you're taking this knowledge or this power and you're building a negative idea out of it. That doubt or worry, when you impress it, turns into fear. That fear must manifest through the body. The body is the instrument of the mind. It'll manifest itself as anxiety. Now, the anxiety is suppressed. The suppression turns into depression, and the depression turns into disease or decay. Have you any idea how many people live that way? That's where they're at. They doubt, they worry, and they get themselves into a terrible state. They're not doing what they have to do. Faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. Solomon was a pretty brilliant person. He said, in all you're getting, get understanding. Now look at that power's flowing in. If you study, really soak up the good information, you will develop understanding. But here's something you must remember. Understanding can only be developed one way, just one, and that's through study. There is no other way. Now, there's many ways of studying. The understanding will lead to faith. See, you're working with something you cannot see. That's really what you're doing. Don't let your senses control you. Let your God-given faculties control you. That faith manifests in well-being, and the well-being is expressed, and the expression accelerates. That's where you're building momentum, and that's because you're at ease. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It's a result of long and patient effort in self-control, and that's when you move into a creative state. Now, you have the ability to choose. You can go that way or that way. It's so beautiful when we start to understand it. Now, I want you to watch this real carefully, because this will help you understand what happens when you're talking to a new prospect that maybe doesn't understand the dynamics of network marketing. X will represent the paradigm. That is the conditioning in the subconscious mind. It's both genetic and environmental. It's not only passed along through the genes, that's why you look so much like your relatives, but in your little life, you're programmed. And we're going to say X represents. What kind of thoughts do we think we're going to think thoughts that are in harmony with the paradigm. Now, this is a process. Here we are here, and somebody's going to give you a why idea. And they'll tell you that if you do this, that, or thus and so, you not only can multiply your income, you can enjoy real freedom. See, time and money freedom is what we want. That's what our spirit's screaming for. Yet when you start to explain it to them, their intellect grasps it and they like it. They say, I love this idea. But they're just intellectually involved with it. Their paradigm hasn't seen it yet. Now I'm going to show you what happens. That idea has to be turned over to the subconscious. The Y energy doesn't mix with the X. And when you impress that idea, all hell breaks loose. That's where you hit the terror barrier. Worry, fear, anxiety strike just like that. And you go right back to where? To bondage. And you know something? That's where most people spend their whole life. You can help them get through that. You've got to help them understand why they're rejecting what you're offering. Because you sit with them and you draw them out and they say, yes, this is what I want. They tell you they want it. When you show them how to get it, they back away. Why? It's not their intellect you're dealing with. It's their paradigm you're dealing with. It's not in harmony with their conditioning. It scares them. Look at Joseph Campbell put it so well. He says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. What do you have to do? You have to understand that that terror barrier is there. You have to understand when you're going after the big goal, it is going to scare you. You have to understand that if you're not scared and excited at the same time, you're probably not going after the right goal. You got to go after something that just scares the daylights out of you. But it excites you at the same time because it's what you want, but you're not in harmony with it. But if you keep going, here's what happens. You say, I'm going right through that terror barrier, and you just crash right through it. You get out there and you do it. And through repetition of getting involved, you don't eliminate the fear by doing it. You just continue to aggravate yourself, but through repetition, paradigm changes. You go talk to some of the 7-figure income earners. They'll tell you, this is what happens. That book gave me the opportunity to win, but I had to study it. I have never stopped studying it. I've studied it now for many years. And here's something I've learned. There's a law of compensation. And the law of compensation is exact. And nobody can get around it. The amount of money you earn is always in exact ratio to the need for what you do. Your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Is there a need for what you do? I don't care where you go in the world. I work all over the world. Everywhere I go, people want more. People want to figure out how to break out of this mental shell that they're in. Everywhere you go, doesn't matter where it is, there is a phenomenal need for what you do. So the need is there. You have nothing to do with it. It's there. Then it's your ability to do it. How good are you at it? How good are you at sitting down with someone, getting them to relax, getting them to leave the world they're in mentally and go to the one they really want to live in? How good are you at convincing them that you can show them the way? That's what Ray Stanford did to me. I did not believe I could have anything I wanted, but I did believe he believed it. He always had a big roll of money on him. He was a happy guy. He was healthy. I was unhappy, sick, and broke. He said, your way's not working. Why don't you try mine? There's only one thing you have to focus on. 2 steps will take care of themselves. When you focus on your ability to do it, you'll become very difficult to replace. Very difficult to replace. That's important you understand that. Now look at, there's only 3 income earning strategies: M1, M2, and M3. M3 is the strategy you want to teach if you're going to teach your kids. The others, one of them's not bad, but one's no good. M1 is the worst strategy in the world, and yet it's used by 96% of the population. The odds of a person being an M3 when you call on them are pretty slim. M1 is not a good strategy. It's where people trade their time for money. Now, there's part of our paradigm is to save for our old age. Save for a rainy day. I'll tell you what you'll get. You'll get a rainy day. But that's part of the paradigm. That is part of your paradigm. And so a person's trying to save, but they're not earning much, so they squirrel a little bit away of what they are earning at the expense of a life. They never drive the car they want. They never take the vacation they want. They never go on they live in the house they want. When I fly out of Las Vegas, I'm going to fly out when I want to fly out. I don't phone to ask them when they're going. They ask me when I want to go. Do you know that that is a choice? That's a choice. And today I fly in the fastest thing in the air. And sometimes I'm all by myself. And I just up there and I work all alone. Costs a lot of money. But what the hell, it's only money. Look at M2 is a good strategy, but it's only used by 3 people out of 100. And that is because there's only 3 people out of 100 of any money to put to work. Now, M3, that's the winner. That's what you're involved in here. This is the strategy that you're involved in. Yeah, it's used by 1% of the population, but get this, baby, they are 96% of all the money that's being earned. And that is because you're setting up multiple sources of income. The ancient Babylonians understood this. Multiple sources of income. The real truth is, you can earn more money when you're sleeping than you can even spend when you're awake. And you know something? The pattern to do is already here. Now look at, our world is changing. And it's changing so rapidly that most people are having difficulty with it. The world's not getting bigger, the world is getting smaller. Let's go back to the people that are streaming. I'm glad that you had the wisdom to tune into this, because you're getting some phenomenal information, and you're getting it in the comfort of your own home, your own office. You could be sitting in your car, maybe in a boat somewhere. There's no end to what you're capable of earning. You can have business all over the world, and many of you do, through network marketing. Look at MSIs, you can set them up anywhere. Now there's certain truth about this. Are they all going to be the same? Rarely. Everybody's looking for the heavy hitters. But you know, the ones that were here earlier in the week, they didn't need the ballroom for them. You want to make next year, they do need a whole ballroom. Now look at, Some of the people you bring in are going to build a big business and some a small business. But I'm going to tell you something that is in common with every one of them. The money is going to flow into your bank. And it just keeps growing if you're doing it right. And if you're not, you're going to lose. So basic and so misunderstood. What do you need? You need direction. Where do you get it? From the people that have proved by results they know what they're doing. I think Jesus put it very well when he said, by their fruit you'll know them. You don't have a hard time telling the people that really understand this business. All you have to do is look at their results. You need direction and you need discipline. What did we say discipline was? It's the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. Make certain when you leave here that you know how to give yourself a command and follow it. Absolutely refuse to let the old paradigm control you any further. 26 years ago, or when I was 26, 55 years ago, 54 years ago next week. I don't know why. I honestly believe we're guided. But when Ray said, do exactly what I tell you, I decided I would. My life has changed so dramatically, and it continues to change. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't think I'm any better than anybody. And I know no one's any better than me. But I do know one thing. If I want to be better at what I do, I'm going to have to talk to people that know more than me. I love what I see here. And I'll tell you something. You two know something I don't know. I have nothing but the highest respect for what you've done with this company. Okay? With support, discipline becomes easier. And that's what this company's supplying. They're supplying the support. Now let's summarize. Let that represent you. And understand there's a phenomenal power that flows to and through us. It's flowing to and through us. And that's what thoughts are made of. You can think anything you want. And those thoughts will either be positive or negative. But you send them out into the universe and you impress them upon your subjective mind. Your thoughts cause your feelings, and your feelings are expressed with and through your body. In your actions. And you take a look at the composite of the three of them, thoughts, feelings, and actions. That's what produces the results. And that's what we call attitude. It's the composite expression of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Now, I learned that from these recordings way back in the early 60s. I still listen to them every day. I literally play the records every day. Now, here's something we want to remember. Take this information and turn it into achievement. Achievement is after the fact. It's confirmation that the sacrifice, the effort, the visualization exercise you live with were all worthwhile. Your dream did manifest. Achievement then becomes the catalyst that inspires you to even greater achievement. I found something on the internet that I thought was so appropriate to bring this in for a landing with. I love it. Surround yourself with the dreamers, and the doers, and the believers, and the thinkers. But most of all, surround yourself with those who see greatness within you, even when you don't see it in yourself. That is what this is all about. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.